This is J. Krishnamurti's second public discussion at Brockwood Park, 1969.
Shall we talk over together?
Could we discuss how craving sustains conditioning?
People,
Could we discuss how craving sustains conditioning?
how craving sustains conditioning.
The non-dualistic nature of the mind.
The non-dualistic state of the mind.
Problem of change.
Problem of change.
Sir, Tuesday we spoke about energy, and you said that attention was energy, and that it didn't use up energy. I don't understand that.
Attention doesn't use up energy, and she doesn't quite understand that. Bhante Signore. Anything else?
The difference between seeing and actually seeing and recognizing a description of one's mental structure.
Seeing and the difference between seeing and the actual recognition.
And recognizing a description of one's mental structure. The difference between actually seeing and merely recognizing a description of one's mental structure.
Seeing and actually recognizing the mental process.
One's description of one's mental structure.
Or description of the thing, yes. Correct. Could we approach all these questions by inquiring? I'm just suggesting it, I'm not pushing this forward as my particular question. What do we mean by learning? Perhaps we can then understand the conditioning, attention of awareness which doesn't waste energy, and so on. Could we begin there? Then bring all the questions into that. Here's a question as was put at the beginning. Craving strengthens conditioning. And any form of resistance, contradiction, opposing desires is a waste of energy, because in that there is involved a great deal of effort, struggle, frustration, anxiety, and fear. All that is a waste of energy. Could we learn about it? Not be told what to do, or how to think, or how not to waste energy, but learn together about this question as craving strengthens one's conditioning, and any form of resistance is a waste of energy. Can we learn about it? And what do we mean by learning? Can we approach it that way? Would that be worthwhile? Instead of my telling you what it is and you telling me what it is, can't we learn about it? So to learn, what does learning mean? Not only at the school level, the college level, at the university level, the technological level, but also learning through experience, in which is involved testing, going through any particular form of experience, and learning from it, and utilizing what one has learned as a means of testing. So I think it might be worthwhile to find out what we mean by learning. It's really quite a complex problem. Needs a great deal of thinking about, or inquiring into, or feeling your way into it. Perhaps not thinking about it, but feeling one's way into it. What does it mean to learn? Now here is a question. Resistance is a waste of energy. Now, I hear that statement. I want to find out the truth of it or the falseness of it. I want to learn about it. I don't accept it. I don't reject it. I want to find out. First of all, in that there is a great deal of curiosity. Curiosity, not about somebody else, but about that statement. Whether there is in it any fragment of truth or anything that's worthwhile, which can be tested, learnt about, experienced, and lived. I want to learn about it. Therefore, when I hear such a statement, I'm really quite curious. Like a schoolboy is curious. He wants to know. He asks many, many questions.
I would think curiosity is one of the essential ingredients of learning.
Essential ingredient of learning, curiosity.
Because otherwise, you're forcing yourself to do something
Right.
against an inner inclination.
Otherwise it becomes mechanical.
Yeah.
Mere cultivation of memory. So we say curiosity is necessary. Now wait a minute. Am I curious? Not what you do, which becomes gossip, interference, impudence, and ugly. Not how you live or what you do, what you think, all the rest of it. That's not curious, that's ugly. But I'm curious to find out for myself whether that statement has any meaning at all to me. Now, when there is curiosity, there is energy, isn't there? Right?
Good.
I'm really excited about it. I'm not just casual about it. I'm not indifferent. I'm really curious to find out. And that curiosity gives me an impetus, drive to find out.
have to consider the motive of the curiosity.
If one,
You have to consider the motive of the...
I'm curious. There is no motive. If there is a motive, there is not curiosity.
No.
I want to learn because I'm curious in order to gain more money. I mean, that's not curiosity. The motive then is much more important, vital than curiosity itself. So, am I curious without a motive? I'm learning. You follow, sir? I don't say I am or I am not. I want to find out. So, I recognize in myself there is no motive. I just want to learn about that fact, whether it's true or false. Whether resistance is wastage of energy. So I say to myself, do I resist anything? Resist psychologically as well as physically. No, it's quite interesting if you go into it. Shall we, really? I'm curious, please bear in mind. I'm curious to find out. I have no motive. I just want to find out. I mean, a first-class scientist is exploring. He's not driven by a motive, because through that motive he might achieve greater fame and money and all the rest of it. Such a person is not a scientist. He's just like anybody else, using science for his own benefit. So I am not curious. There is no motive behind curiosity. That's a fact. I'm talking about myself, not about you. So, now I want to find out if I resist. I may. Resist, dozen things in life. Wife, children, the boss, the society, what somebody says to me. So I'm free to inquire. Free to find out in what way I resist. Shall I examine this resistance in fragments? You understand what I mean? I resist there, here, there, and so on.
I don't quite follow you. We're talking about resistance now, and you were saying just now that curiosity channels energy naturally.
Yes.
So then, where is the resistance?
We want?
Where is the resistance here?
No. Where there is no. I want to examine or learn. I'm curious about resistance, which is waste of energy.
Oh, I see.
That's what was asked. I'm taking that as an example. Shall I look resistance? Shall I look to find out resistance how should I put it? As a fragmentary process. I resist you, what you say, because what you say may be true, and I want to resist because I'm frightened of you. I'm frightened of not being able to sit on the platform. Follow what I mean? So, shall I examine this statement applicable to myself, in fragments? I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah. Wouldn't be wise.
Or shall I be able to look at, learn about it as a whole? I don't know if have I made myself clear?
Yes.
Look, belief is a form of resistance, right? Would you say that? I'm a Hindu, or a Muslim, or a Buddhist, Christian. That is a resistance against all other forms of beliefs. All other forms of rituals, dogmas. I'm a communist, and I reject everything else. Therefore, I'm resisting.
So anything that impinges on your mind.
No, wait, we'll come to that presently. Go slowly, step by step. Don't come to any conclusion. So, I found something. Any form of conclusion is a resistance. No? I conclude that I am wrong and this is right. That's a conclusion. And I resist what I consider wrong and hold on to what I consider good. There's a resistance. Or I resist my wife because she dominates me. Or I resist any form of questioning because I may find myself in a state of uncertainty which I dislike. And that may invite fear, therefore I resist. So, shall I look at these fragmentary resistances and try to learn from each fragment? Or can I look at this whole form of resistance and learn from it? You're getting what I'm doing? Am I making myself clear? Because let's go together, otherwise it's no fun. At least for me.
I don't see how this whole form of resistance expresses itself other than through lots of little resistances, like you only come...
Yes, sir, I quite agree, but I'm just asking myself, just look, I'll put that question, I may be wrong. Don't accept it. We're learning. I may be totally wrong. And I said to myself, shall I learn bit by bit? You understand, sir? About resistances, bit by bit. Watch myself resisting any form of infringement on my freedom. Whether society, the priest, the government, my wife, and so on. That's one form of resistance. And other form of resistance is belief. I believe in something. And I resist every other form of belief. Because I'm frightened. If I don't have that belief, I might, I don't know, something might happen to me. I conclude I'm an Indian, or an Englishman, or whatever it is. And I resist any other form of the Frenchy, they follow this, that. Shall I learn from each? Or is it possible to learn about the whole of resistance? Not bit by bit.
You mean that there is a common reason in
Pardon?
every form of resistance?
Pardon?
You mean there is a common reason at the back of
No,
every
not
form,
really.
or common factor at the back of every form of resistance? It is caused by the same thing.
Just
Yeah.
please, look, I am resisting in various ways. My question would be to myself, why am I resisting at all? This, that, or the other? What for? Not the reason of it. I want to see the fact that I am resisting. First, I must know I'm resisting. I'm curious to find out if I'm resisting. Right? Now, the moment I am aware that I'm resisting, that is already the discovery of the cause why I'm resisting. No, please go slowly. This is quite... I'm resisting you because I think I'm much more clever, superior, spiritual than you. And what you say might pull me down a little bit in front of the others. Therefore, I'm going to resist you. So, I recognize I'm resisting. And I'm learning about it. Therefore, my mind is so curious to find out. And therefore, I find out why I'm resisting. Not only you, but the whole business of resisting. I wonder if are we go along together? Are you sure? Look, I've formed an opinion. Right or wrong, I've formed it. And I stick to it. And I resist every other form of opinion. I believe in something and it is my opinion, my knowledge, or others have informed me and it strengthens my opinion. And I resist every other form of opinion. Right? Now why do I have opinions at all? I recognize opinion is a form of resistance. I am a Labourite and Mr. Wilson is perfectly right and the Tories are totally wrong. I've committed myself to that for various reasons. Now, I'm going to learn. And therefore, in that sense of urgency and energy, I find out why I'm resisting altogether. Is not my whole life, please listen to me, whole of my life, a way of resistance? I think I am somebody, I have an image of myself, and I don't want you to destroy that image. Or I have various forms of beliefs, dogmas, knowledge, experiences, which has given me certain vitality, strength, and technique to tackle life, and I'm going to resist everything else. So I may say to myself, I see this very clearly. And I see, by Jove, I found something, which is my whole life is a form of resistance. No? No, don't please agree. I have found this. I'm only communicating with you. Don't agree or disagree.
You mean it's a selection of one set of possibilities as against another,
Yes,
and therefore you're resisting
the other.
the other system,
Yes,
and that forms your particular character.
that's right. Character, the word, Greek word, comes from engraving. Engraving on the mind. That's my character. My mind has been engraved upon, and I have a particular character. Strong, weak, purposive, direct, and dominating this or that. And that thing that has been engraved on my mind is going to continue, resisting everything else. So I'm asking myself, is my life a form of resistance? Is living a form of resistance?
Yes, because with that resistance, I built up my security. And I feel secure in that. And then I'm afraid to let it go.
You are saying, are you, madam, that resistance is a form of security? Is it? I'm not saying it is not. I'm just, is it? I don't want to reduce it to one word, you follow what I mean? It is much too explosive thing, this. Can't just say, well, that one word explains everything.
One of the things one might be resisting is embarrassment or shame.
People?
One of the things one might be resisting is embarrassment or shame.
Of course, all that's implied. I don't want to take, little by little and examine each one in detail. This whole problem of resistance. Is my life based on resistance? Because I have an image, what I must be, what I should be, what I am. Or what I want to achieve.
But what gives the energy to this image that one has in oneself? What gives the energy, the force to this image that one has of oneself? Why is it so strongly engraved?
Why is it engraved on my mind?
Yeah.
I can't hear quite
So
well.
strongly.
so strongly ingrained in the mind.
That's fairly simple, surely. The family, the society, my own desires, all the time this is impinging on my mind, every form of influence.
Isn't it right that all these different ways of resistances is a means of protecting this image, defending it?
Is that what you have found, madam?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Is that what you have learned?
Sometimes.
And then this is now we are talking, please, you see what has happened? Curiosity has aroused tremendous energy to find out in me. And I'm looking, watching, where I'm resisting. I want to learn. Because I see any form of resistance, which is not a conclusion, but is an experience, therefore to be tested and say that is so. Any form of resistance divides people. Right? Therefore no communication. Therefore no relationship. Therefore no conflict. Therefore no peace.
Is not resistance in one body, one?
Of course.
Est-ce que la résistance n'est pas une peur de l'idée que cette personne a de la mort?
See. Is not resistance a fear of death? That's also included.
Of idea of
Of
death.
idea of death. So, shall we go now? I hope you're also as intense about this as the speaker is. Because I really want to find out if there is any form of resistance in me. I want to learn. Death, the idea of death, the idea that I'm a great man, the image, the success, the popularity, the reputation. You follow? They lead all those horrors. Is the mind resisting anything? Which means the mind has taken a position with regard to politics, economy, with regard to religion, with regard to the family, with regard to taken a position and is unwilling to move from there.
When we speak of resistance, the mind starts resisting resistance.
Yes.
And that's not.
And tradition is also a resistance. So have I a tradition? You follow, sir? I want to learn, I want to find out. So there is that statement, craving strengthens conditioning. Does it? Why do I crave? I understand I crave for food when I'm hungry. The biological sexual urge and the image that they thought builds around that sexual urge. The craving for sexual excitement or the craving for power, position. that craving for peace. Is all that craving? The wanting, demanding, insisting. I'm hungry. I need food. Is that craving, or is it the natural response of an organism that needs food? Would you call that craving? But craving comes in and say, I must have that particular kind of food, which tastes better than this. So, can we go on? And there's a whole structure of sexual demands. The biological urges. The urge, biological urge, is different from this, the craving which thought creates about the urge. Right? Are you following all this?
Would you please repeat that last sentence?
Would I repeat the last sentence? I'm lost, I don't know. What did I say? Would somebody else say it?
That the thought has a different picture of the biological urge, and is there a difference between the two?
The biological urge is strengthened by thought creating or building an image about all that. That becomes the craving.
Are we afraid that if we don't crave, we cease to
No,
exist?
I don't say that. What does this craving mean? I'm trying to inquire. Craving for power. Is that, Craving to fulfill. Craving for peace, for God, for whatever it is. They're the natural, organic, biological urges, demands. And thought takes hold of them and transforms them into something called craving, appetites. And then thought again says, oh, I must be careful. Because I'm a respectable man, therefore I must be wise in my appetites. So there is a battle going on between two thoughts. I don't know if you follow what I mean. The thought that has created the image, the picture of the biological sexual demands, and the thought that says, be careful. So there is resistance created by thought against the thought which has created the picture, the sensation, the thinking about it, the volume behind that. Right? So there you are. See what resistance, how resistance has been formed. Right?
But sir, surely sometimes resistance is necessary.
Huh?
Resistance might be necessary.
We're coming to that in a minute. We'll come to that. You are saying resistance is sometimes necessary.
Yes.
We'll find that out. First, let's get the picture. So thought encourages in one direction and thought resists that. Thought says, I must resist, otherwise I'll be run over, I'll be destroyed by society, by my wife, by my, etc. I'll be destroyed, therefore I must resist. Therefore it's good to resist. It's wise to resist, it's moral to resist.
Isn't the opposition of the two thoughts, the one thought, the desire which is pushed on by thought, leads in one direction, which disturbs the temporary equilibrium of
Yes,
one
that's
head
right.
personality, and the opposing thought tries to restore it at a different level.
That's right, sir. That's right. So I've learned a great deal. There's been a learning, you follow? So I'm looking at myself, the mind is looking at itself to see whether there is any form of duality going on. You follow? Resistance is duality, right? Opposition, a contradiction. And therefore, in that there is conflict. And therefore I say to myself, by Jove, whole of resistance is a waste of energy. Right? I've learned that. It isn't somebody else has told me. It isn't that the speaker on the platform has pointed out and therefore I'm repeating it after him. It is something which I have actually, out of my curiosity, energy, drive, I've learned that. Not as an idea which I'm going to apply, but as an actual fact that resistance breeds duality and therefore conflict, which is essentially a waste of energy. Right? I've seen that. Now I'm going to inquire where it is necessary to resist, if it is necessary, or can one live without resistance at all? I want peace. God knows why, but I want it. I think it's marvelous to live in peace. You come along, because you have heard somebody say you can have peace if you do some of these things. Meditate, repeat, sound, sit this way, breathe that way, God forever, God knows. And I want that. Because I can see intellectually a mind that's very peaceful is extraordinarily alive, beautiful, has a certain vitality, intensity. Intellectually I see that. And what you say appeals to me. That repeat a certain word, sound, appeals to me. And I practice it, and I get certain experience, certain feeling, certain quietness, and I'm going to resist every other form of teaching. So, I want peace, and I find peace can be had at a certain price, and I'm willing to pay for it. And I'll resist every other method of achieving peace. I know all that. So I say to myself, can I live completely, right through my whole being, without resistance? Not that I must resist this or that. Follow this person and not that person. Can I live that way? Not theorize, but actually daily live without any resistance. If you want my coat, shall I resist? If you want any of my property, fortunately I haven't got any, so you can't bag it. Will I yield, not resist you? If you say, do this, think this way, don't think that way, shall I resist you? So where shall I yield or not yield? Now, how can you tell me or I tell you where to yield and not to yield? Say they. Or have I to learn about it? You follow? If you tell me that I must yield there and I must not yield there, you've already set a resistance going in me. But to find out for myself where I must yield without resistance and where I must not yield. If you tell me I must wave the flag, I couldn't do it. But you threaten me, you want to put me in prison or whatever it is. So I'm going to learn. Then that means I shall find out how to act at the moment you ask me to wave the flag. Not come to that moment with a conclusion. I don't know if you're following all this. If I come to that moment with a conclusion, I'm already resisting. because I have no principle, which is a conclusion. I have no ideology. There's freedom. And so I say to myself, I am learning. I have found that the truth, not an opinion, not a conclusion, the perception that has made it very clear. The clarity has made that perception clear. And I say, no resistance. And I found in my life, I'm going to find out. Every minute of the day, I'm going to find out.
Isn't it that we're afraid of the energy and so we...
Afraid of?
Afraid of energy. And so...
No, fear is energy. Can't be afraid of it. Fear. Fear is a form of energy. No?
But it seems that one's constantly diverting energy into resistance or fear or something, and
no. Look, fear. I'm afraid. I'm going to learn. I'm not going to translate it's a waste of energy, or it is it energy, or who is raised. No, I want to learn about fear. Therefore, I am free, curious to learn. I have no conclusion about fear. No, you follow? So I'm going to learn what is fear, form of resistance. Because I believe, or I'm afraid I might die tomorrow, or I'm afraid of my father and mother.
Est-ce que cette peur de la mort n'englobe pas toute la résistance contre chaque chose?
Sûrement.
Inconsciemment,
Inconsciemment. But wait, so fear. Am I afraid? Go into it, sir. Are you afraid? Actually, deeply. Are you aware that you're afraid? Shall I resist fear by cultivating courage? Which is a resistance which is called courage. You understand? It isn't courage, it is resistance. So, I'm afraid am I escaping from it? Escape is resistance to what is. Surely? right? So I want to find out, am I escaping? Escaping in so many ways, let's go into the escapes. And there is fear. What shall I do with it? I'm not escaping because I've learned, I see, not have or learned, I see resistance doesn't solve fear, doesn't absolve it, doesn't put it away.
Quand j'ai vu, même quand j'ai réalisé que la peur et la résistance sont uniquement la peur de la mort, est-ce que je ne peux pas, même intellectuellement, réaliser que la vie et la mort sont la même chose, et à ce moment-là, la peur disparaît?
You have understood? Huh? Once I realize that the whole of this problem is covered by death, because that's the ultimate fear. And then understanding the nature of death, I've solved the whole problem. It's not quite like that, is it? I'm not really interested in death. That is inevitable, that will come later. But I'm really frightened of my wife. I'm sorry, take something else. Frightened of my what, sir?
Inadequate responses.
Frightened of my inadequate responses to life. Right, let's take that. Frightened of my incapacity to respond fully to life. Right? I'm frightened. And I'm not resisting it. I'm not escaping. I'm full of curiosity to find out why I'm frightened, because I can't respond fully. That fact is I can't, right? That's a fact. What am I frightened about it?
Because it's so uncomfortable to live with.
Huh?
Because it's so uncomfortable to
And
live
then, which means what? I dislike living uncomfortably. Or I find that I cannot respond completely, adequately, because my mother and father beat me up when I was a boy or a baby. And I don't laugh. Or put me on the wrong pot. You know, the whole thing, going back to childhood, as though that was, but never mind about that. So, am I frightened because of my inadequate response? All right, I'm inadequate. I don't respond completely. Why should I be frightened of it? Because I have an image that I must respond. Right? Therefore, fear is a form of resistance. You get it? Because I have an image that I must respond fully. If I don't respond fully, I'll be unhappy, I'll conflict, I'll be miserable, uncomfortable, and all the rest of it. I have an image, a picture, and therefore I say I'm inadequate, and therefore I'm frightened. If I have no picture of what adequacy is, well, I am inadequate, all right. Huh? But
Is that being aware of what
no,
is?
no, madam, listen to it a little bit. I haven't finished yet. I am inadequate.
But one is aware of it.
I am inadequate. I have no fear. I have fear because I have an image that I should be adequate. But I have no image. I am inadequate. Now what tells me I am inadequate? Please, no, don't start it all. What tells me I am inadequate? Huh?
The image.
Comparison. Quite right.
But
Huh?
actual living.
Do please listen. Don't go on with your. He said, it is comparison. I said, why do I compare? That's my habit, isn't it? From childhood, through school, through university, and so on through life, I've always lived in a society, in a family, in a state of mind that's always comparing. Bigger car, less car, more beautiful, less beautiful, more intelligent, less. And you follow? More money, less. More peace, less peace, God, true. You follow? Why am I comparing? Please, I'm curious, you understand? I'm learning. Why am I comparing? And I see this comparison has brought inadequacy in me. If I don't compare, there's no inadequacy. No. And I am what I am. I may be stupid, but that's all right.
But sometimes it's not always like that.
No, madam, don't go, it's not. Of course nothing is always like that.
I mean, it's not always comparison that makes one feel...
I am examining comparison, madam. My life is comparative. Comparing. I want peace. I am not peaceful. How do I know if I have not the idea of peace?
One knows anyway.
So why do I compare? Can I, please follow this, can I live without comparison? The ideal, the hero, the bigger man, the lesser man, the inferior, the stupid. Can I live without any comparison at any time?
I think it seems to me that it's the linguistic structure of thought that has comparison built into it.
Right. Linguistically, in language itself, there is comparison. I've seen that. Therefore, I'm not going to say I am more or I am less. The very structure of the me is comparative. Right?
Don't we confuse comparative facts and comparative judgments?
Comparative facts and comparative judgment. Confused between the two. Comparative fact, that is, this color is red, prefer blue, I don't like this. Fact. That's fairly clear, but I want to get much more my teeth into much deeper thing than that, which is, can the mind live completely without comparison? not the comparison of judgment, that is, you are fairer than I am. Oh, obviously, I'm brown and you're fair. What? This is blue and that's red. I may prefer the blue and you may prefer the red, and I may yield to you because that's not unimportant. But I'm asking myself, I'm going to learn, find out, I'm full of curiosity whether the mind can live without comparing. And is not the mind itself the result of comparison? The tall and the big, small, more, less. I can only live non-comparatively when I'm absolutely looking at the fact and not what the fact should be or must not be.
Two facts side by side.
No. There's no such thing as two facts side by side.
Yes, there are. There are two things.
No, madam, don't look. Fact at one time, not two facts at one time.
No, but it's a way of perceiving different.
No, that's what that lady was saying just now.
In not only in red and blue, but in many things, in people and objects.
Opinion then.
And events and so on.
No, there is,
change.
madam, look, there is only one fact. Later, second later, may be another fact.
Yes. And then we see the difference.
And yes, proceed. Then what? What are you trying to say, madam?
I'm trying to say that one learns by seeing the differences about oneself. One only sees one thing in oneself.
No.
And doesn't see that there are other things from time to time. Then one compares, and it is a way of learning.
Now
Even
listen what you are saying, madam. Find out.
Oneself is different.
Do please listen what you have said.
time to
Do I learn through comparison?
We do learn a certain
No,
amount.
please find out. Don't insist.
We do, yes. I mean, I have found it out.
No, madam, that doesn't mean anything. Sorry, forgive me to contradict you.
All right.
Do I learn anything from comparison, by comparing? Or do I only learn by looking at the fact and inquiring about that fact, not comparing that fact with another fact? I have a vase, Chinese vase, or the Persian vase. By looking at that Persian, at the Chinese vase, I learn all about it. But if I begin to compare the two, I'm learning about something else, not about the fact of the Chinese vase.
But Krishnaji, certain facts in relation to other facts.
Now wait a
are
minute, this.
Sorry. For instance, if you were considering the speed of something, you would learn it in relation to the speed of other things. That would be part of the fact, would it not? That comparison.
What I'm trying to say, related things are related.
You are saying you learn about that fact much quicker than I do.
No, I'm speaking of the objective relation of two facts. There is a relationship. One, the speed of light is at a certain different speed than the speed of a motor car. Now those two are facts, and their relationship is a further fact. One has to consider the two things in order to learn something about them.
All right. The motor, the Mercedes goes much faster than the bullock cart. Right? Where is there? That is so, that's a fact. And that doesn't interfere with my life. That's a fact which doesn't touch my life.
It might.
Might
By
if I want to go from here to London with a bullock cart, obviously.
Learn about the speed by going on the bullock cart or on the Mercedes. That means each time you look at one fact. When you are in the Mercedes, you feel the speed of the Mercedes. You don't need to compare it with the bullock
So
cart.
wait a minute. Not only that sound, there is some other fact also involved in this. Do I learn by comparing myself with you who learn much quicker? There's a speed involved in this too. You learn something extraordinarily quickly. You follow here, there is. You see very clearly, immediately resistance, all the implications of it. And your perception is instant. And mine, I have to go little by little. Your perception, you act much quicker. There is immediate. My action is slower. Right? Right? Now, why am I comparing myself with you? You see it much quicker, understood. But why am I comparing myself? Where does the speed come into this? The more, the less. Why?
Because of the imaging.
No, because I'm envious of her. I want that same thing which she has as quick as. Because I've compared myself with that. And that comparison is so speedy, it's very quick. So I say to myself, why am I comparing myself? Can I live without being aware that you are much quicker than me? Linguistically, can I free myself from the comparative judgment about myself? Therefore, can I look at myself non-comparatively, non-verbally? Because the word in itself is comparative. I don't, right? So I am really very curious, and therefore full of delightful energy to find out if I can live without comparison at all. Comparison implies pretension, right? There's a great deal of hypocrisy in comparison. I want to be like the Christ, the Buddha, the hero, and I'm not. I'm trying to be, comparing myself with that and pretending, striving, struggling to be that. Well, I say, what nonsense. Therefore, I see, if I can live without comparison means complete honesty. To oneself, not to anybody else. Moment I compare myself, I'm pretending. Putting on a mask. It's like in a school, if B is compared to A, as it happens always through examination, through in the class, in everywhere, you must be like A, you're destroying B. And that's a form of education we all have had. Destroy B. Now education becomes violent, destructive. And can we educate ourselves without comparing? Moment you have ceased to compare, you are, well,
so we have to find the place where comparison has its place and is necessary and where it hasn't.
That's right, that's what we say.
How can we be not aware of it? See, we are aware of it.
Not a question of how can we not be aware of what?
Of the differences between
Oh no, we are saying on the contrary. We are saying be aware of this contradiction. Contradiction exists when there is resistance. We've been through all that.
I cannot see my head. I just see this part of my body. How should I compare with a whole body, whom I see everywhere?
As I cannot see my head, but only part of my body, I only know I have a head through comparison. Oh la la. I look in the mirror.
This is bringing up the point, but in a way, it's not a very good example, but we do learn about ourselves by seeing things around us in other people. It's not always brought about by envy. It is observation.
No, madam.
We can learn.
You can learn by watching others, you're saying?
In many ways.
In many ways. By watching the animal, its violence, its devotion, its pleasures, I learn because I'm part of the animal. My whole background is derived from the higher ape and all the rest of it. At least that's what the scientists say. Or the others will say, no, you're straight from God, or whatever it is. Do I learn? Have I got to watch the animal to learn myself? Have I got to watch you to learn about myself?
It can be useful.
How can it be useful? Have I the eyes
Because
to...
I am blind to myself.
No, and therefore you're blind to others.
No, they can wake your eyes up sometimes. In a flash.
They can wake you. Every shock, every challenge, every question does wake you.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Why do I depend on questions, challenge and looking others to keep me awake?
It's all part of it.
No, madam. Then a part of me is asleep. Therefore, I'm not awake. It's like the curate said, bad.
Est-ce que cette forme de comparaison n'impliquerait pas une idée d'imitation?
Comment, madame?
Est-ce que la forme de comparaison dont parle cette dame n'impliquerait pas un désir d'imitation?
Sûrement. No, please, don't take part this and part that, but find out whether you can live without comparison. And isn't that the only way to live? Doesn't that give you tremendous energy? But if I'm comparing myself with the Prime Minister or with Jesus or whatever it is, and what a waste of life it is. So I'm watching, I'm learning about comparison. Therefore, I know how, when comparison has its value and when it has not value at all.
That's what I meant when I first said that it had some use.
No, it had no, madam. Forgive me again. We start by saying comparison, can one live without comparison? Not it helps sometimes, it doesn't help sometimes, comparison is necessary and not necessary. And the right question, when it is asked and answered rightly, then that question will bring about the right response when comparison is necessary. But I must ask the right question, the fundamental question first, which is, can I live without comparison? Not some days or sometimes. And if I have answered that question, not verbally or intellectually, but deeply from totally, then I'll know when to say it is necessary, when it's not necessary. It's like a man. It's like, unless you know what cooperation is completely, deeply, then only you will know when not to cooperate. But you say, well, mustn't I non-cooperate with this and will cooperate with that? Isn't it necessary? Sometimes it's not necessary, sometimes. That leads to greater and greater confusion. But if you know how to cooperate fundamentally, not around an idea, around a feeling, around an emotion, cooperation, without any resistance. When you know that, then you will know also very deeply when not to cooperate. So one must ask the right question first. Sorry, am I holding? 1 o'clock? Yeah, thank you so much.